Okay, we're good.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Dee Reinhardt. I'm with Illinois WorkNet. Today, we're going to be talking about our business outreach tool that we are planning. We are doing a listening session today, and I'm going to let Kelly Lapatino say a few words about why.
Thanks, Dee. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I apologize I'm not on camera. I always try to be, but it's National Apprenticeship Week. And so we are out and about supporting events and delivering proclamations and all of that fun stuff. So thanks to each of you that support apprenticeships. I'm happy to be here today. And as Dee mentioned, just wanted to give some background. So I'm with DCO in our Office of Employment and Training. I serve as one of our regional managers. And DCO has been supporting the Illinois Employment Business System, or IEBS, for a few years now. This system was designed primarily to support rapid response activity. And so we've been using it more so in that capacity, but we also have a variety of different features and elements embedded into IEBS to support employer engagement. So there's Dun & Bradstreet data that's incorporated into the system. So business service teams can access that information and make more informed decisions when they're reaching out and connecting with employers. So we've been using the system for a few years now. There's a lot of great tools and features in there. Dee's going to kind of highlight and go through what we currently have. But we also know that Illinois WorkNet supports a variety of other business services and projects. So including Apprenticeship Illinois, where we engage with businesses. So with that being said, we know that there's lots of business services that are required underneath WIOA. But really the question is, how do we track and measure the effectiveness of services to employers? We do know that USDOL has conducted several performance outcome pilots on business services. And so we anticipate that there will be a need to better report out on some of the performance outcomes of how we're engaging in businesses. So Illinois really wants to take a proactive approach, utilizing the IEBS system and look at how can we build out this system to really serve in that capacity. So it's meant to be an internal system that we're going to build out. We also know that WIOA business services are outlined in legislation, and they identify a range of business services that must be provided to employers through the American Job Center system. I'm happy to drop that legislation link in the chat here momentarily just as a reference. But we know that a WIOA business service tracking tool is really essential. So again, what we're getting at is we really want to measure the effectiveness of services that we're providing to employers. We want to support continuous improvement, and we really want to better align workforce efforts with regional and economic needs. So the ability to track the different service types, how we're engaging with employers, what are the outcomes, establishing a tool can really help provide some of these actionable insights that can enhance collaboration, make more data-informed decisions, help kind of reduce some of that employer fatigue where there's several individuals that are maybe reaching out to one employer, and have a centralized system. So making some of these enhancements into the IEBS system can really help support those efforts. We also know that I see some of you guys from LWIA 7, that LWIA 7 is phasing away from Career Connect and will be transitioning over to IWDS and Illinois WorkNet. And so we want to make sure that some of the features that you guys have or wish to have that you're currently using in Career Connect are considered as part of this build out. So as Dee mentioned, this is a listening session. We want to hear, kind of current strategies, current approaches. We also recognize that different areas, have access to different tools and resources. And so as a state, we want to kind of pull together unified system that can help support business services and again that employer engagement. So Dee, I will go ahead and turn it back over to you.
All right, cool. So this morning we're going to be talking about IEBS, and a lot of people call it different things, but we all in the know call it IEBS. So just so you can too. One of the things that we do plan to do, there's a whole lot of words on this page. I'm not going to read them all because I hate that. So what we are going to do is build a case management system for business services across, at the beginning, at least the local workforce investment areas and other potential partners down the road. So we're going to talk about what we have currently. We're going to listen to what you want, and then we're going to write it down, make a plan, pull everybody all back together and let them know what our plan is, and then we'll start building. We want to work together to do some layoff aversion, because we already have the system in EBS for layoffs where we're tracking those, but we want to try to improve the layoff aversion opportunities. We want to reduce employer or business contact fatigue, and we want to reach out to the underserved and underutilized areas where businesses are never contacted by a business services representative in the state of Illinois. We're going to start out right now with showing you what we currently have in EBS. We have a relationship that we are very protective of with Dun & Bradstreet. We call them D&B for short. And we get the business information for the local businesses. There's over 600,000 just registered in the state of Illinois. We get their location information, including a map. We get FEIN numbers. We get different historical records based on what their growth patterns are. And then because of the zip code relationship with our one-stop system, we can, on layoffs, on a public page, show the closest one-stop centers to that business so that the employees can go find services to help them get back to work. Come on, puppy, you can do this. What we currently collect in EBS, most of EBS is currently related to layoffs, but it can be adapted to business services. We get a UI account. We get a website if it's listed. We get the various locations of that business, contacts associated with that business if they're in Dun & Bradstreet. Sometimes they're not. We collect notes and files related to layoffs. We also have union relationships that we can enter into the system. We have schedules and jobs that are related to the layoff. We collect the benefits related to a layoff as well, but we can enhance that list. We have LMI data that is not necessarily isolated to the layoffs. It is some LMI data across the state of Illinois. And then we have a layoff history. All of the items that have 1 star will be adapted for the phase 1. And then phase 2 will kind of pull some additional information in after we work in the system for a little while and understand what we do need to still enhance. So coming up now, I have some pictures of the screens of what we collect in EBS, the contacts, the notes, the files, the schedule. We track initial meetings and workshops that are held. We also track any WIOA services that are offered to a job seeker that is related to that particular layoff. And then we track layoff aversions. It's hard sometimes to get that information because the business doesn't always tell us, and the workers don't always tell us that they got another job somewhere. We track the jobs and the benefits. And as I said earlier, the zip code connection with the business and the America Job Centers or one-stops, whatever you call them, are always there. And we put those on the service finder information that we put on the public layoff pages. Some things that we know that we would like to collect is any business services that you might do. And currently we are collecting all of these on the left-hand column in the Apprenticeship Illinois grant project that we manage from the Department of Labor. And those all will be added along with additional services. And RAPS, if you aren't familiar, stands for Registered Apprenticeship Program. OJT is on the job training. We would like to add some questions for yes or no. Are they a federal contractor? Do they hire remotely? Do they offer benefits? What they are? Do they have a job application site link that they use on their business site? And do they have an affirmative action plan? Currently in EBS, our outreach is a little sad. I'm just going to say it's sad. We can look for businesses on DNB, and then we can include them in a group. So for example, for the CEJA, Climate and Environmental Jobs Act, did I get that right, Kelly?
No, close.
Oh,
Climate and equitable. Oh my gosh, now you got me tongue-tied. Climate and Equitable Jobs Act.
thank you. Now we're done with these sessions. I don't have to remember it. I can just call it CEJA. But anyway, so if we were looking for climate related jobs, maybe solar farms or wind farms, we could include all of those businesses that we find in DNB into a group so that they were all clustered together for our research and industry placement purposes down the road. So we do have that working for us. Now, in Apprenticeship Illinois, this is a grant-funded program, also through the Department of Labor. We do have outreach events that we talk through, and organization information that we track different pieces, and then we have occupation development. I just recently learned that if you have a registered apprenticeship program, you can add multiple occupations to that one number. So that makes it a whole lot easier for a business to expand their RAP programs in their business to include additional occupations, which is wonderful for expanding apprenticeships across the state of Illinois. So for the outreach events, we have the ability to track by program year, who the navigator is, what the planned outcome category is, so we can match all of that information. But we also can track the type of event or the type of outreach that was performed. And we pulled these into 7 different categories so that it was easier to track the information down the road. So we would continue with those categories because they're broad and outreaching, and then we can do some really nice reporting based on that. The organization information we track through Dun & Bradstreet, and if Dun & Bradstreet doesn't have it, sometimes businesses are doing business as, so we have a link to the Secretary of State search. And sometimes businesses are registered outside of the state of Illinois or potentially even internationally, and then just have a location in Illinois. So we are working on expanding and enhancing our search capabilities. We track underserved areas. We track the organization contacts, the service team members. We recently, just last week, added the ability to add external team members so that if there is a regional economic development person or somebody from a city of something, we can add those people to our teams and let them work on our development projects with us as well. We have company-specific outreach events. We track apprenticeships, employer services, and organizations' notes and uploads. So I'm going to show you some of these screens. This is the D&B information, organization contacts, service team members. The programs, we're now calling those occupations. We made an update after I had my slide presentation put together. We track apprenticeships and whether they are new or expansions. We track the employer services and the organization notes and uploads. We did meet with Career Connect to find out what they were doing in addition to what we have planned. A couple of the things were to allow those external partners to work in the system. We have that functioning in Apprenticeship Illinois right now. What's the preferred method of communication? What are your needs and how can we help meet them? Sometimes you can't just check a box. Sometimes you have to write a paragraph. Do they place job orders? Who applied? Were there referrals made to it? We know that we need reports, but what types. And then we're probably going to plan a separate dashboard for the business services rather than using the existing dashboards that we have in EBS. Some questions that we would like you to ponder and give us some answers for. Should we connect the tool with Illinois WorkNet Services Finder? Should we connect the tool with a job search tool like Illinois WorkNet Job Finder or JobLink? We know that we need a connection with IDES at some point to get UI account information and then the mass layoff statistics and metropolitan statistical area statistics. That's a really hard one to say. What is DOL asking for, Department of Labor asking for that we don't collect? And what trends do we need to plan for? One of the questions we want you to consider and provide an answer for is, do you have a current process for tracking your business services that you do provide? And how do you do that? What tools are you currently using? So the recruitment and retention support services, training and development services, layoff support and employer assistance services, and then any other services that you might offer. Do you utilize a template? Would a template be useful if you were going to meet with a business right away? Do you have a template that you would be willing to share? What's your workflow? And do you have a specific workflow? The one thing that we would like to tell you is Salesforce is not going to be what what we're using. We are going to model to some elements of it, but it will be a case management tool for employer engagement. We do recognize the need to import and or export data so that we can share information that already exists and then output information to share into systems like Salesforce. Perhaps the red team is using that. So what have we overlooked? What's on your wish list? What are you using? I'm going to turn this over to Sarah to share her screen. And we're going to take this into Miro and we're going to write some information down that you share with us. And we're going to talk about some of the questions that we have burning in our brain right now. So Sarah, I'll go over the questions.
Yeah. Can everybody see my screen? I turned my camera on just so I could say hi, but my name is Sarah Graham. I am the outreach manager for the SIU Illinois WorkNet team. I previously was the director at LWIA 20, which was in Springfield, Illinois area. And we were the WIOA partner for 5 counties, Cass, Christian, Logan, Menard, and Sangamon. So I'm familiar with EBS and how it's been used in the past with regards to rapid response activities. So what we are looking for today is we really want to enhance EBS and make it a centralized and standardized business management tool. We all know how EBS is currently used, and we want to make sure that users are able to conduct business outreach successfully, as well as make referrals. And we know what a big issue referrals are throughout the state. We want to build upon our current business intelligence and the existing technology. So the goal is to create a search and tracking measurement tool for conducting our statewide business outreach. And we want to target specific employer-focused, policy-driven goals. So again, we want to eliminate the defragmentation among our business partners and create a unified, integrated space for all of our employer programs in Illinois. Dee mentioned a number of these questions. So we're going to go over these just because we want to spur the conversation when we move over to where we're taking notes and really looking at what you all want and need in a system. So how are you currently tracking business engagement? What is your current workflow? How are you assessing business needs? What data is needed to help make those informed decisions? How does your LWIA measure outcomes? And I know if you are part of an LWIA, you do have to report your outcomes to CEOs, boards, and various oversight committees. If you think of any tools that would be helpful, so if you're ever working in EBS, or if you're in Career Connect, or if you're using a CRM software that you recognize there's a tool in there that you love, or you're working in EBS or Career Connect and you have a wish list of things that the systems currently do not do. What is working for you and what isn't, and again, trends. Any questions on any of the information that I have just explained?
You're welcome to raise your hand and open up your microphone, or you can type it in the chat. We'll watch that. One of the things that I want to catch first, Sarah, is what tools are they currently using? So if you want to go to that, that window. We're
If I
using
can find
Miro,
it.
by the way, and Miro is just a phenomenal flowchart tool. So who's using what tool right now?
So when I was in LWIA 20, we used simply Excel. We would communicate the information that we gathered throughout the month at our monthly partner meetings and share in that way. But we used Excel, so don't feel bad if you're not using a CRM platform or anything else. Whatever you're using is fine as long as it's what has worked for you all.
So do we have some folks on here from Career Connect? Deb Lawrence, do you use Career Connect being at the BCS?
Yes, I do. So I can answer whatever you need.
Career Connect.
What exactly? I mean, my question to you in the chat was whether or not the information that has been stored on the business side of Career Connect is going to migrate over to the EBS system.
We're going to try to import all of that.
Okay.
So that will, it may not be on the initial launch. It may be like 2 weeks later, but we plan to get that there.
Okay. Well, I've used it since its inception. So, you know, whatever you need from my end, Dee.
All right, good. Who else is using something?
And I'll just add that, we know that some of the elements that you guys are using Career Connect will be built and considered here. But as we build out the system, we definitely want to make sure that the system is accessible to all providers throughout the state. And so that's kind of, where we're going with it. So as you use, if you are a Career Connect user, like think about like, oh man, if I had this feature, this would really be helpful. It's not going to be exactly, we're not building Career Connect, but we definitely want to consider the elements in it. And we want to consider what features that you don't currently have that maybe would be nice to have.
Is anybody using just an Excel document or something very simple?
Also using Illinois Job Link.
Okay.
Is anybody using a CRM platform?
All right. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So let's move on to some of the other questions. So what we have, what's your current workflow? What do you do when you reach out to a business? How do you assess business needs? Anybody can talk if you have a microphone. And as Sarah and Kelly know, I have a hard time being quiet if it's really quiet. So
So for our LWF 5, which is Kane, Kendall, DeKalb, we typically, well, first off, sorry, I was going to type it in the chat box, but we started with Excel as far as tracking, going back to the last slide, sorry. And then we've kind of migrated to Google Sheets currently, just because it's a little bit easier to share and able to access it when we're not like necessarily connected in the network or to our network. And then we do have a CRM tool right now that we're just kind of testing out and trying to see how the business piece can be tracked in there. So we're kind of moving in that direction, but for now it's just the Google Sheets, which is basically Excel document. And then as far as really, we just have, when we have initial meetings with the employer, we're listening. Because a lot of times it will, things will come up that we can kind of take a deeper dive into just based on their current needs. Like we're just listening to their needs right now. What are they experiencing? What are challenges that they're going through? Whether it is, workforce or something else related that we can, maybe even connect them with a partner organization that can help in that area. So really it's about listening in that initial meeting, giving them the floor. And then as they talk through more things, then we kind of integrate in there, like how our services, funding, whatever the case is, can kind of help support some of those needs that they have and offset, hopefully some of the costs if they're starting to spend some money on training or upskilling their workers. And we talk about the funding path, but really we're listening. And then as the workforce professional, we're figuring out behind the scenes, like what services, programs, grants, funding can we blend to help fully support this business as much as possible.
do you have an assessment form that you use while you're listening?
We do. I do. We have like different variations of it. We've constantly trying to go back and enhance it to make it a little bit more broader, so that we can even ask questions from like our partner organizations in our system. Like, what are some questions that we've tried to kind of come up with a comprehensive one, but it's kind of an ongoing work in progress. So we have a general bare bones like workforce needs. Kind of like an initial assessment tool, but we don't really treat it as a script or have them necessarily fill it out in that initial meeting. It's more like a guide to kind of help guide the conversation in the right direction if we need to kind of drill down on the needs.
Would a built-in assessment tool of sorts in EBS be useful for you?
I think it definitely would. We also, as an area, want to try to move towards having them fill it out, just so we have some data that we can go off of and have an analysis like, 30% of employers reporting that they have vacancies more than 2 years, or, whatever the case is. So that's what we've been trying to kind of do as a local area, just to kind of come up with a common tool that we could use. So if that is something that the system could do, that would be amazing.
All right.
That's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah.
So what is your workforce board doing now for measuring outcomes for business services?
Are you asking me specifically?
Well, you, but anybody too. So.
Yeah, everybody can respond. Yeah, because I'm curious, how do you all report what you've done to your boards?
I believe that in LWIA 7, a lot of Career Connect data reports are assessed because different types of services provided to businesses are outlined in Career Connect. It could be OJTs, it could be jobs posted, it could be number of businesses served, it could be number of services provided to individual businesses. So all of that is documented in Career Connect.
And you all in LWIA 7 try to coordinate the job seekers with the businesses so that you can get them working. It's kind of a cyclical activity. Am I?
Both sides of the house are connected through Career Connect. So for example, if a business services representative posts a job, then that job lives in Career Connect, but a career advisor could refer a customer
Sure.
to that job, and it could be any agency. It's not, internal to an agency. So our agency could refer one of our customers to a job that was posted by another agency. And then if that produces a direct hire, then it's a shared placement.
It's a win for both sides.
Yes.
Touchdown. Okay. What kind of tools would be helpful? What's currently working in your system that could be improved? Are y'all using AI to help write job descriptions for your businesses?
Not yet.
I've been using it with my programmers to write my development cards.
I've been underwhelmed by AI. I've looked at a number of different systems, and it seems to be extremely wordy. It's not tight. It's not succinct.
And you can train it to be succinct. It takes I've noticed some duplicity in some of the things that I write, but then that duplicity has also led to trigger some other thoughts for me. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I pick and choose some of the words and phrases, but
right.
I've just found it not to be really tight.
Any other ideas about current workflow? I know we heard from LWIA 5 and some from 7. Is there anybody else represented on here that has a different workflow? How do you find which businesses you're going to reach out to? I've lost my chat. I don't know if anybody's typing in the chat or not.
I have been sending you chat messages.
Oh, there we go. We ask a lot of questions. Look up employers in various databases. What other database do you use besides, well, are you using IEBS for any of that lookup? And what do you use if it's not IEBS?
No.
IMEC, so that's the Illinois Manufacturing.
Excellence, yep.
Okay. ONET Online for what do you use the ONET Online for? The job descriptions?
Well, yeah, if an employer has a particularly sparse job description, we may give them some suggestions, or if they have none, we help them. But
Sure.
also if we are writing OJT documents, we might use ONET Online to assist with writing those.
Okay, so when you say OJT, is that your customer side of the house or your business side of the house?
Well, it is the OJT documents for the employer.
Okay, so it's the business side of the house. Okay. Chambers of Commerce are always good.
This is Stacy, and a lot of these flows, I would agree with, like, it mirrors a lot of the stuff I've done in the past. Definitely having a standard assessment, asking a ton of questions, getting as much information upfront as possible to see if there is a potential for those services, OJT or customized training. So just gathering as much information as possible. We did use Excel to generate like prospect lists and to do a little bit of research on those potential employers that we wanted to outreach to, going into databases to see if there's anyone else working with them, what kind of jobs do they have posted. So doing a lot of research, getting a lot of questions, and then in response to your AI question, I know Illinois JobLink right now does use AI by scraping ONET and making recommendations for different tasks that you might have missed in your first go around, or different wording pulled directly from that type of occupation. So I think that those are all of my notes I wanted to throw in there.
Cool. What other question have we missed here, Sarah? Businesses tracking engagement, current workflow, assessing business needs, data to make informed decisions, how we measure outcomes, helpful tools, trends.
Definitely. One thing I know that's been mentioned that is very helpful is templates. As many templates for outreaching, inviting to a job fair, pitching OJT, templates for when they're starting OJT, and just making sure that if we have a good email, that it could be customized and sent out over and over again. It makes sense. So templates, yeah.
We also use checklists to make sure that we don't miss a step. So for example, with OJT documents.
I guess if we had a template to put together an OJT, that would do the checklist thing too. Like, do you have all these pieces?
Maybe.
We are looking for your feedback. So if you couldn't think of something today, but would like to share, I've put my email address in the chat, and Sarah will put hers in the chat. So if you think of anything after we're done today and would like to share it with us, then we'll be happy to include that feedback into the session. Our next steps are to gather all of these pieces that we've collected over the 4 listening sessions into some columns of ideas so that we can figure out what's the most important and what we need to get out into phase 1. And then build as we go, do the enhancements, do the improvements so that we can track. We recognize that we won't have everything all at one time, but that we will continue to take the feedback and enter more or create more information and more usefulness in the system. Kelly, do you have any if nobody else has anything that they would like to share, Kelly, would you like to share a last few words?
Yeah, thank you for your time this morning. Input, feedback, all very valuable and appreciated. As Dee mentioned, this is just kind of the initial steps to go through listening and discovery as we look at some of the build out and the features for some of the system enhancements. But appreciate all that you do. We know that you guys are the ones engaging with employers. And so we definitely want to make sure that there's a system that's supported with the end users in mind, and how the system can support efforts statewide. So looking forward to working on this project together.
Any last thoughts from anyone else? If not, we can return you to your day. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll send you a notification about the follow-up meeting so that we can tell you what we gathered from all of the sessions, and then let you see if there's anything that gets triggered at that point in time. So thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your day.